Madness in Group B as AC Milan, Porto out, and Atletico Madrid make it through. Real Madrid top their group as they beat Inter Milan. Haaland and VBV say goodbye to the Champions League with a 5-0 thriller. And Ajax, my goodness, 20 goals in the group stages. They just keep doing the perfect thing. Champions League, the final match day, Tuesday recap. Jonathan Johnson, Jimmy Conrad, it all begins right now. Hey, everybody, welcome to Que Golazo. This is the Champions League Tuesday recap. We got Jimmy Conrad in the house. Jimmy, what's up, man?
What is up? What an exciting day one of match day 6. Unbelievable. And there were some fights. Fights. I'm here for it. I've got plenty of time for fights.
Absolutely. I felt like they all watched the West Side Story trailer and the Jets and the Sharks, and they were just going nuts. Jonathan Johnson, good to see you again. How are you, bud?
Hey there, guys. Doing great, as always, and looking forward to picking through the bones with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being part of the family, everybody. Que Golazo on YouTube.com/Que Golazo. Make sure that you throw in all those questions, all those comments. Jimmy Conrad, Jonathan Johnson, they want to answer them. So make sure that you chime in. Anything that you want to talk about specifically from today, would love to answer. And we're also, of course, on Twitter, Que Golazo Pod. And if you're listening to this on Apple Podcast, Spotify later on, please leave a rating and review. But keep throwing those questions, those comments, and subscribe and spread the word. So close to 6,000. And by the way, let us know what game were you watching. Were you watching the madness in Group B? Were you watching Real Madrid over there as well? And what about earlier on as PSG did their thing as well? I'm sure Jonathan Johnson got upset that I didn't feature PSG in the intro. Tell us what game you were watching so we can talk about it. All right, let's begin in the Group B madness. Well, first of all, Atletico Madrid, Jimmy Conrad, where the hell did they come from with a 3-1-0 win? It was madness this game. Madness, I tell you.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And if you looked at their starting lineup, Luis Suarez actually started the game, came off hurt, and they brought in Mateus Cunha. And I thought, all right, maybe this isn't the way it's supposed to go, or at least as an Atleti fan. I wanted it to go. And who doesn't want to see Luis Suarez versus Pepe, by the way? I mean, those two guys would love to bite each other in a real game. You know what I'm saying? That's a really bad joke, and I'm going to continue to use it. I don't care. But Atleti seemed to be up for it, and I was pretty impressed by the response, by the fact that they lost on the weekend at home to Mallorca, giving up a 1-goal lead with 10 minutes left to go. Really un-Diego Simeone-like. This was a great response. I thought they matched Porto punch for punch, literally, because there was a fight as well. And it was obviously a great result. And as the game started to get a little bit loose, then that's where Atleti really stepped up and made the plays and ended up scoring 2 late goals to seal the deal. And somehow, some way, they pull a rabbit out of their hat and book their ticket for the knockout rounds. This is the 9th time now that Diego Simeone has led Atleti into the Champions League group stages, and 8 of those 9 years they have qualified for the knockout rounds. It's a real testament to his consistency, but I still don't think he's figured out this group and what his best 11 is.
Yeah, absolutely stunned they had it in them, actually, because I think I predicted that Atleti would finish bottom and drop out of Europe completely. So to see them going through like that, it's kind of a bit of a throwback to the grit of old under Diego Simeone, which I guess is kind of refreshing, because we've been asking a couple of times on this podcast this season, have they finally reached the ceiling with Simeone? I guess this kind of suggests not, but then again, I wouldn't say that I was completely convinced, given that it took those late goals, Porto finally getting one back too little too late. But, Atleti live to fight on. But I agree with Jimmy. I don't think that Simeone has quite gotten to grips with this squad that he has this season. And also, I just don't think that this season's squad, despite some quality additions, Rodrigo de Paul, Cunha as well, I'm just not sure that they're quite the same as last season's vintage.
Well, you know what? Atleti fans don't give a damn, JJ, because they're in the round of 16 right now. And I feel, you know what? I feel like Atletico Madrid loves mayhem. And mayhem this game brought us. First of all, there was 2 red cards, one of them to a staff member, as well as Carrasco gets sent off. Then Wendell gets sent off. And he's like, I don't want to go off. You have to go. I don't want to. And then he has to leave. It's just great. And then Antoine Griezmann, in many ways, becomes a hero, because he was really creative in this game as well, trying to push on, of course. And I feel that Simeone, if anything, if they can't figure it out during the game, at the very least, they love craziness. And Porto, they've always been pretty conservative, Jimmy Conrad, and I think that they needed to be a little bit more advantageous this time around. It's funny, by the way, that out of all this craziness, Pepe was the voice of reason. How funny was that one?
Yeah, I don't know. We're living in a parallel universe for sure. I mean, I would just add, when I look at the stats, the possession numbers are really interesting because, to your point, despite Porto being conservative, they had close to 70% possession, which really speaks to what Atleti's game plan was, which was just to kind of sit back and almost protect Kondogbia, who's usually a holding midfielder, but because they didn't have Savic, Jimenez, and I can't think of the other player at the moment, but they didn't have three of their starting center backs, and Kondogbia had to slide back there. The last time he started for Atleti in that position, Liverpool had scored 2 goals in 15 minutes, so there was a bit of a risk. And I think they did a good job of just making it really difficult to break through centrally. And they did a good job for the most part, despite not having a lot of the ball. So fair play to Atleti. To JJ's point, I think that grit is back, but now it's got to continue. And they have the Madrid derby this weekend. So we'll see if they can keep it going for that game, because that's a big one.
Yeah, I mean, as well on Porto, we've discussed it a couple of times. They have sort of this consistency which keeps them there and thereabouts at this level. But I think we saw this evening again, they're kind of, they're really at the limit. And I think, with all due respect to them, dropping into the Europa League is not a bad thing. I'm a really big fan of Conceição as a coach, and I think that those stats speak to how well he sets up the team. I just think, that, like Atleti, the Porto squad has seen better days, but it's Atleti who go on. I feel a bit disappointed for Milan, but I get the feeling we're about to bridge that topic anyway.
Yeah, we're going to break that down right now. By the way, so sad. Luis Diaz no more in the Champions League this year, at least. So hopefully we'll see that next time. Felipe, by the way, JJ, our producer, reminds us of that one. So let's move on to that one. AC Milan at home at the San Siro against Liverpool. You would thought, well, Liverpool's rotating their squad, but little do we forget that, they're rotating their squad, but they have a ridiculous squad, and with players with a point to prove. And by the way, some mistakes, of course. Fekir Tomori goes from 0 to 0 in this one, but Mohamed Salah, the first Liverpool player to score 20-plus goals in all competitions in 5 straight seasons since Ian Rush. That was back in 86-87. And Divock Origi, by the way, with another goal. Jonathan Johnson, Liverpool get that win, and Milan, is it maybe good just because of what, their biggest rival, Inter Milan, didn't do last year, and they ended up winning Scudetto? What do you think?
I think there are definitely ways that you can look at it positively, but I also think there's ways that, Milan fans can feel negatively about it. And I do think that, given the circumstances, given the fact they were given a second chance up against a rotated Liverpool side, taking the lead as well, I think that Milan will feel, pretty gutted that they're not at least in the Europa League. But then again, you look at the way that the Serie A title race is shaping up at the moment, the fact that they just lost Simon Kjaer for pretty much the rest of the season, and perhaps it is a blessing in disguise. We'll see. Time will tell how that one plays out, but it does feel quite underwhelming, to see Milan crash out immediately, having returned to the Champions League after so long away. But we'll see if they can be back. If they can keep up this title race in Serie A. But Liverpool, under strength, coming up against a motivated Milan side and still managing to get the win. I think that this, for me, it makes them the favourites heading into the knockout phase for the moment.
Interesting.
Yeah, Liverpool are excellent. And in the same way that we're talking about Liverpool, a rotated squad, still have an identity, know how they want to play, despite not having, quote unquote, some of their biggest names. I thought Man City was going to do the same thing against RB Leipzig. And I know we'll save that part of the conversation for a little bit later, but I was thinking that was the reason. Yeah, sure, you get some second stringers, but they're all trying to push to earn those first team minutes. It didn't happen the same way for City, even though they did have some opportunities. My big concerns with Milan is that what I thought Milan did really well in that first match day when they had the lead over Liverpool at Anfield was that Ante Rebic up top really provided a little bit of dynamic movement up top. No disrespect to Zlatan. He has his qualities and his strengths that Rebic doesn't have, but not running the channels. And then on top of that, Rafael Leao, I think, was a big loss for Milan as well, because when he picks up the ball, he runs at the back four and puts a team on the back foot a little bit in a way that, I thought Krunic was good today, but in a different type of way where he just has that unpredictability. And I think as he gains confidence, I kind of almost put him in the Vinicius Jr. category, that once this guy starts to believe in himself at that higher level, there's no stopping him. Now, Vinicius continues to prove that this season, which I don't know if it's him or a mix of him and Ancelotti. We'll get into Madrid in a little bit, but I feel like they just missed a little bit of that unpredictability in their attack, or someone to stretch the defense of Liverpool and really test some of the younger center backs in that back line that was a bit of makeshift in a way that wasn't as threatening as I think it could have been. And I think Milan missed that. And I think Stefano Pioli has to address that at some point, that they still have a little bit of that diamondism up top to make them unpredictable. So Milan's got some questions that need answers. But to what you said initially, LME, I think it's really important to then see the silver lining and actually use your biggest rival, Inter Milan, as an example of it's okay if you get fourth in your group, because then you don't have to worry about any midweek games going across Europe and trying to salvage something when you probably weren't good enough to win it either competition anyway, whether it was the Europa League or the Champions League.
Yeah, I think as well, this kind of game, and I know I run the risk of incurring the wrath of Zlatanistas all over the world by putting Zlatan in the corner. But I honestly think that if Milan want to go to that next stage now, whether it's domestically or continentally, they need to move away from relying on somebody who's now into his 40s. Great still for his age, obviously, but I think that his time now leading, being the talisman of a team that wants to challenge at the top, both domestically and continentally, they need somebody more dynamic up there. I think, you're completely right when we're talking about Rafa Leao. I think Giroud as well, he's kind of pushing it sort of age-wise now. And Milan, they're running this risk with some of the members of this squad at the moment that they over-rely on too many of the veterans. We're going to see how they can fare without Kjaer in the next couple of months. And I think that in January, whichever potential moves they make, and then looking towards the summer, I expect to see a stronger Milan back in the Champions League next season, because I do think that dropping out now, will pretty much secure them qualification again next season, potentially even the title. We'll see.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Relying on a veteran as opposed to, him just being a supporter really makes a difference. So those January moves,
he didn't get subbed in the game, which was surprising.
Which is kind of insane. Yeah, he probably was like, "Don't sub me," and Pioli was like, "Okay, I'm not gonna sub."
I mean, if you're chasing the game, he is pretty clutch, so I understand why you'd want to leave him on,
especially in set pieces, etc. Yeah. Okay, well, let me ask this again though, and I ask it to the audience as well, because I really think it's a point though to what Antonio Conte and Inter failed to do, but they ended up winning Serie A. Do you think this helps them? Now they just have one thing to focus on, Jimmy Conrad, just one thing, and that's Serie A. Is that helpful, do you think, or is it a little bit different with Rossoneri?
Well, they'll still have the Coppa Italia to contend with, and obviously probably a competition.
Domestic competition, basically.
But still, it's domestic. You're not traveling far places. You're not having to take those extra steps and to worry about your depth as much. I think you can maybe get away with only having a good 15 players. But I think it showed today, with all due respect to Romagnoli, I think he's been a longtime servant for the club. But the loss of Simon Kjaer, I think, really hurt them as well. He's got a great presence. Obviously, he was up for Ballon d'Or and for a lot of the things that he does, but he just seems like a guy that has that type of presence that holds everybody around him to a higher standard and raises the level of people around him. And I think they missed him today in his presence in a way that maybe, because on the goal that Mo Salah scored, and what a goal that was, Romagnoli's getting caught ball watching on. Maybe Mike Mignon's got to make a better save, but none of the defenders reacted. Mo Salah did, and obviously that's the type of form he's in. And most players, I think, would hit that ball over the top because it was such a weird kind of spinny ball. But Mo Salah is a different gravy right now. But Roman, that's just one example where I think here maybe would have been ready and more alert in that particular moment. And those little things, as we know, are the things that decide the fine margins at the highest levels.
Yep, I can't really add too much to that. The one thing that I would say now is that Milan will be under so much pressure in all of the big domestic games they play. There's no margin for error left now, especially with Napoli pulling clear a little bit. Napoli have their own issues to contend with the injuries and everything. But, Milan can't be dropping points, losing games to teams like Fiorentina. With all due respect to Fiorentina, because I'm pretty high on what they're doing so far this season. But I think Milan now, they know what they need to do. And sometimes that works in your favor, but sometimes, you can get crushed under that weight of expectation as well.
I just want to say really quick, circle December 19th on your calendar.
I was just going there. Go ahead.
AC Milan versus Napoli at the San Siro. Oh. I feel like that's going to be a game that dictates what kind of version of Milan we're going to see for the rest of the season. Are they going to stop feeling sorry for themselves at that point in 8 or 9 days and get on with it? And we'll see.
Absolutely. I was just going to go there. What a game indeed, right before the holiday Christmas period begins and the end of year, of course. All right, let's move on here. Group A, which was earlier on, JJ, PSG. They were like, you know what? Okay, Brugge, you beat us at home. Lutu, we're going to do the business now. Where were you, PSG, earlier on here? 4-1. A very impressive performance. Kylian Mbappe. Wow, 2 goals in 7 minutes. Messi doing Messi things. pretty good all around, huh?
Yeah, it was. It was a real surprise to see them dig that performance pretty much out of thin air. We certainly haven't seen them look that fluent. Certainly not at the first half level under Pochettino. Pretty much any time in the last 12 months, but also at the same time, not wanting to do down Mbappe's performance, Messi's fantastic first goal. But what does it really count for? If we're being honest, it's all good and well, thumping Brugge at home, which, to be honest, most of us would have expected, with all due respect to Brugge. I think really PSG will be kicking themselves when they look back at the points that they dropped away at Leipzig and the way that they didn't manage to hold on for the draw against City, because at the end of the day, it was within their reach to win the group. You could argue as well they probably should have won in Belgium, or they at least had enough chances to do so. So they finished slightly closer to City than they probably would have expected to, but also at the same time, I think there's still so much work for them to do going into the knockout phase.
You're such a glass empty.
We'll see if it's Pochettino's calling the shots.
My question for you, JJ, is with regard to, I guess, maybe a silver lining of, maybe somewhat of a meaningless game, and on paper they should win 4-1 against this Belgium club every single time, is the midfield three, because they have Mbappe, Messi, and Di Maria. Neymar is going to be out for a while, but Idrissa Gueye, Verratti, as we know, we talk about it a lot. He's such an important player to the transition of the team from defense to attack and how he plays and where he wants to get the ball, and it's fantastic. But you have Wijnaldum in there as well, and I wondered if that's, do you think, the best front three, or did you like the starting 11 in particular? And do you think that's something that Pochettino can actually stick with for once? Because it seems like it's always changing.
I mean, I think it works in Pochettino's favor in a really bizarre way when he doesn't have all of the big guns available and feeling that pressure to put them out on the pitch. I wouldn't necessarily say that PSG is stronger for not having Neymar available. Neymar, when he's on his game, can completely transform this team. We know how key Verratti remains. I think it's certainly a more dynamic midfield combination when you've got Wijnaldum in there next to Gueye and Verratti. I think you can maybe add Paredes in there instead of Wijnaldum, and you could argue that that's PSG's strongest midfield. I don't think it's necessarily the strength of midfield that PSG would need, but I think that this bodes well for PSG moving forward, because we've seen Messi struggling to find the back of the net in Ligue 1. And I think having this kind of confidence boost, will now be huge for him and PSG, especially going into quite a challenging game against a resurgent Monaco side who will test them at Parc des Princes this weekend. And I think that, this now is a real an opportunity for PSG to seize on the momentum they've created and actually start to tap into their potential. Otherwise, we're looking at potentially a wasted season with arguably the best attacking lineup that continental football has ever seen.
Why is Messi struggling in Liga?
You know what? How you look at the attacking talent PSG have brought in over the years, and you look at their debut season, nobody has had it easy. Not even Zlatan. Zlatan, who was pretty much a bully by the end of his time in France, even struggled at first. Edinson Cavani, proven goal scorer wherever he's gone, also struggled to be prolific in his early years in Paris. It's nothing new. Neymar has faced those struggles as well. Mbappe is kind of the exception to that rule because he grew up in it. It's kind of a bit like a Bane character where he's like been born into it. So he's used to the harsh environment of the defenses that he goes up against in Ligue 1.
I was
exactly. But being serious, Messi has never really seen that kind of speed and that kind of strength on a weekly basis that he sees in Ligue 1. And also, the way that teams set themselves up tactically in Ligue 1 is really, really underrated as well, I feel.
Jim?
I just feel like there's some off the field stuff that's happening. And I do think it makes a difference when I think about Messi moving from a different country, bringing your family over who loved being in Barcelona. And even if they said, hey, we want to stay there, then you're still flying back and forth to see him. I just feel like that throws you off. And I think it's going to take some time for him to adjust to that. For whatever reason, he's super comfortable in the Champions League. Maybe when the music comes on, he thinks he's back at the camp now. I have no idea. But I honestly But when I don't know, there's something about, you're changing countries, changing cultures. And sure, Paris is a bit cosmopolitan and a little bit more global than maybe some of the other cities out there across Europe. but it's still different. And you're still putting your kids in different schools, and you're still doing all these things that you didn't have to worry about when you're at Barcelona. And I do think that makes an impact. And I do think it distracts you. Ultimately, I think it distracts you. And then you go to another league where there's a different flow and rhythm to it. And he's been playing in one league his whole career. And yes,
that's where I was going, Jimmy. That's where I was going. It's not just one league he was playing in. He literally like moved there when he was like 12, so he just knew one thing. So
keep going on that. That's
not so what you're saying, he was the bane of La Liga. Like Mbappe is with Liga.
I was the bane of La Liga. Yeah, exactly. But that's Messi for you, regardless. PSG went 4-1 against Club Brugge. By the way, Man City rotated Man City, but still $300 million bench Man City lose to Leipzig 2-1. I mean, in the scheme of things, nothing too bad there for Pep Guardiola as they still top the group. But, and Leipzig, obviously, after saying goodbye to Jesse Marsch, I'm wondering, Jimmy, was Pep a little guilty of tinkering? Is he, overthinking it again? Does he care? What do you think?
No, I think he cares. I mean, the goal they gave up, the first one to Dominic Szoboszlai, where it's a breakaway down the middle of the field, is so unacceptable for defenders of that level. It defies logic. Honestly, if you get to watch any highlight, go watch the positioning, the lack of pressure on the ball. It's a goalie punt from Gulacsi that Nathan Ake wins the first header, then it drops down to Konrad Laimer, and he just takes a couple touches and plays a through ball the middle. I see that at the under 10 level, not with Manchester City and this $300 million bench. It's mind-blowing. Now, I will say that I thought Gulacsi had a very good game in goal, and he's been really spotty this year for RB Leipzig, and he's one of the many reasons why I don't think they were playing consistently well. They were always kind of hanging in games. You could see their quality, but just couldn't get the grip ever and really put their stamp on a lot of games, including a very tough Champions League group. But they fought and got into a Europa League spot. I thought it was a pretty deserved performance, all things considered. I thought they were the ones that out there trying to dictate the game, but City did have quite a few chances. I think Kevin De Bruyne hit the post when I was watching. There's 8 games on at once or whatever. So there's only 2 at that time, but I was trying to keep an eye on everything that was going on. And it looked like City was around, but in some ways couldn't be bothered to really kind of take it to that next gear. It felt like they were stuck in second. Maybe they got into third for a couple minutes, but then let's just go back to second. Who cares, But I thought after 7 straight wins, they would keep that mentality, but it didn't seem like that was the case today.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's kind of the performance that I expected from Liverpool against Milan.
Same.
I thought they'd get that sort of result, just get narrowly beaten. But also I think as well at the same time with Leipzig, I think so many of those players are out there playing, thinking right, we know that, this is only an interim solution. There's going to be a new boss coming in. It's a chance to catch the eye if we put in a performance here in quite a high profile game, show what we can do. Also, I think that Leipzig were overdue a victory because I felt that they were quite unlucky, particularly in the 2 games against PSG.
I'm sure Jesse Marsch loves that. Oh, great. You perform now, right after I'm gone. Keep going.
Yeah, but I mean, I remember saying it at the time. They were very unlucky in Paris.
No, it's true.
Those 2 goals that Messi got. And also, PSG were hanging on, for their lives in the opener, the opening sort of 15, 20 minutes of that game in Germany. So, I think that, Leipzig, we'll probably look pretty good, after a couple of months under a new coach going into the Europa League.
Should be a good Europa League, by the way. Borussia Dortmund, we'll talk about them in a second. But Kyle Walker getting a red card, Jimmy. So he's out for the first leg of the round of 16. Is that a major deal to you? I mean, he's important.
Yeah, he is important. And I actually liken it to Nico Barella getting a dumb red card against Eder Militao when they scrapped on the sideline.
Did you see that, by the way?
The fact that you even take a swing or just that you put yourself in a position where you can get a red card and that you lose your cool for a split second. Now that, you're going to miss an important game and in a game that your team needs you. So, I'm kind of bunching both of these guys and anybody that got red cards that the cards are going to carry over. It's unfortunate. And you wish that they'd have a little bit more wherewithal, but I understand. I was a player once and I get highly emotional. They used to call me crazy eyes because I'd flip a switch and then you couldn't even talk to me normally because I just go out there and try to 2-foot anybody. Crazy eyes. So I get it.
Yeah.
But now, it does put them in a position where they have to make adjustments. And I wonder, when I think about Barella in particular, Simone Inzaghi's like, why did I even play this guy? I didn't need a result in this game. We're still going to get second. And now I lose one of the top young players in the world and one of my best players because he lost his cool. And so, it's tough. We'll see how Inter copes with that once we get the the draw. I can't wait for the draw on Monday, by the way. It's gonna be awesome.
It should be a good one. 5 red cards today, 6 if you include a staff member as well. By the way, so there you have it. Well, listen, before we take a break, by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, that literally means a second, and then we come right back. But Zach Steffen, second season running, where 9 USMNT internationals have played in the Champions League. Is this the best metric to measure the growth of the USMNT, Jimmy?
100%. Yeah. Anytime we can have more players playing at the biggest competitions around the world, it's great. I hope we get more players in the Copa Libertadores as well while we're talking about it. But with regard to what I love the most about what's changing is that I think people now just look at American players as just players. They're not American players anymore. They're guys that can contribute. They're guys that they can trust to go out there and do the job. And I think that's great. Now, the American manager, we got some work to do, unfortunately, but one step at a time. But I'm excited for all the players that are competing in this.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it speaks volumes about the development of the game. That it's not sort of really viewed as some sort of rarity these days to have an American player at a top club performing well in a competition like the Champions League. I see we're getting questions about whether someone like Tyler Adams is going to get back in the Leipzig starting 11 anytime soon. I think that depends on whoever comes in as coach, whether they fancy them or not. But I think I don't see why he wouldn't at least get a shot at getting his place back in the 11.
Yeah, with regard to Tyler Adams, I mean, Conrad Lamer came in and played excellent, and he obviously had that assist as Abeslai that we were talking about before. Kampel is a player that I think covers a lot of ground, does a lot of the similar things that Tyler Adams does. So it's really just kind of probably a preference, as JJ says, of the new coach, and he needs to play. Very similar to Zach Steffen. As much as we love seeing him play for Man City, him being the backup to Ederson, I don't know how much that moves the needle in terms of his development with regard to how he's going to perform for the U.S. But with regard to Tyler Adams, when you're in that part of the field, you need to get as many repetitions as possible. So I'm curious about his future, but I'm going to withhold judgment until I see who the new coach is.
Yeah, that will be a major part of that. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk Group D, Group C, obviously, which include Ajax, Dortmund, Real Madrid, Inter. But we will be right back. Remember what I said, YouTube, that means we come back right now. Apple Podcast, Spotify, make sure that you leave a rating right now while you're listening to it. Why not, hey? Why not? Be nice. Be nice. Que Golazo Champions League recap. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody. Told you we're back, and we are here. Let's keep going. By the way, 30 goals scored today in the Champions League. 8 from South Americans. Muchas gracias, Sami Sedovnik, for letting me know about that little stat. I like it. And yes, we will keep on rolling here because everybody has responsibilities. We know that Jimmy has some HQ stuff, and our friend here, Jonathan Johnson, needs his sleep because come on now. He's been working hard. Yeah, absolutely. We gotta get ready for Liverpool's real game against Aston Villa this weekend as well.
The real quiz.
The real one.
Man, right. just wait until Jimmy has to deal with Villa in the Champions League and these episodes.
I can't wait.
I'm literally taping that from a pool in Hawaii every time I see that. All right, let's move on here. Real Madrid 2-0 against Inter Milan. Toni Kroos with an absolute beauty opened it up. We obviously talked about Nico Varela, that weird moment of madness, and Asensio with another beauty. I really feel was his first touch. And that was the killer blow that meant Rojiblancos take top spot in Group D. But fear not, Inter Milan fans, you still make it to the knockout stages, which is better than what happened last season. Jimmy, let's talk about this group. Real Madrid doing their thing. I was actually surprised that Vinicius started or at the very least played for that long. I mean, I guess Ancelotti wants some.
Well, I think he also wanted to get that top spot. And there's something to be said for keeping your team into a rhythm. Like if you're already kind of in that, play on the weekend, couple days off, or at least rest and relax and regenerate, as they say, and then you play again, and you just kind of have that nice up and down. If you give too much of a rest, sometimes some of the players can lose some of that match sharpness.
Yeah, especially if you're 21, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess not Vinicius's case, but he's been in such a good form, especially without Benzema. I think you wanted to have some consistency in the lineup. I think where I'm most surprised, not with Vinicius, but that midfield, because Kroos, Casemiro, and Modric have all played the last 5 games. Now they've all been 5 wins, and I think they're probably going to only go as far as the health of those 3. But I think that is vital. And I was actually pretty surprised that Ancelotti started all 3 of them and didn't give them a rest, knowing that a draw would have been enough for them, especially when Camavinga did okay when he played against Inter Milan in match day 1, came on as a sub. And and made a difference. Ultimately led to Rodrigo getting a goal in that. And he's got enough energy to cover the ground, or Fede Valverde, or anybody outside of the three older guys that are there. Casemiro did come off. I think he was a little bit hurt. So I guess we'll have to wait and see if it was worth the risk. But they do get the top spot. That's important. You don't want to drop into second and potentially face Liverpool or Man City or Bayern Munich in the next round, even a red hot Ajax. I wouldn't want to face them either. So yeah. I was actually pretty disappointed in Inter Milan, though. They put out a pretty good lineup and they just never got into a rhythm. And I think that probably speaks more to what Madrid was doing outside of what Inter was doing. But I was expecting a little bit more of a punchback from them, and we never saw it. We never really saw them get into what we've been seeing recently. They were an 11-game unbeaten streak, by the way, and just dismantled Roma a couple days ago. So pretty lackluster performance from them. But I think it just speaks more to how good Madrid is playing these days.
Yeah, I'm with Jimmy. I agree that I was disappointed by Inter Milan. I actually tipped them to win that 2-1. But like you guys, I was taken by surprise by Ancelotti's, personnel choices. The only thing I can think of is that perhaps he's looking at the games after the Madrid derby this weekend and being like, right, we needed to build up the momentum over these games. They're our toughest tasks, up until the new year. Let's keep that momentum going. Solidify our place both domestically and continentally. And then sort of rest up around Christmas and into the new year, and then be ready to go when the knockout phase rolls around. That's the only thing that I can think of. But, I do think that he did take a few risks this evening, especially after Benzema picked up that injury. He's going to have to now watch some of his key men, make sure that nobody picks up anything serious than a sort of a minor knock, and, perhaps start giving, some guys like Camavinga, a bit more confidence to start. I know it's not been the easiest of debut periods for the young Frenchman, but I think that Ancelotti's going to have to trust players like that sooner rather than later if he doesn't want this season to fizzle out.
Yeah, absolutely. We get a comment about Luka Modric, by the way, per Fabrizio Romano. They're still hoping and planning to extend his contract until June 2023, the ageless Croatian wonder there. And by the way, there was another question about Conte. Do you think he regrets leaving Inter Milan? I have my own answer for that, and it's no. But Jimmy, what do you think, JJ?
No. Go ahead, JJ. Go, JJ. No, go ahead.
Not at all. I mean, I think it's easy to look at the situation now and say that Conte would regret, not being in the Champions League latter stages with Inter and being at Tottenham Hotspur side that really needs a lot of work. But, let's wind the clock back a couple of months to the situation that Conte was in just after Inter being crowned champions, the mess that they were facing. I think Inter now at the moment seem a world away from that. But then again, Inter, they ended up sealing the Serie A title, and then people were basically talking about them as if they were bankrupt. So, maybe the same thing will happen again this season. I don't think necessarily because things look better on the pitch that things behind the scenes are, any different to what Conte would have left behind.
Yeah, I think that he seems to have a flamethrower wherever he goes. There's a bit of Mourinho to him where he can only last somewhere for 2 or 3 years. I feel like he's very hard driving. I feel like control is very important to him. And if there's any semblance of somebody trying to do something behind his back or undermining him or somehow taking away some of his control, that's where shit just starts hitting the fan with Antonio Conte. I think his time was done at Inter Milan. I think he set out what he wanted to do, which is win the Scudetto, especially to do it against with Juve obviously being in control and breaking Juve's string of 9 straight. I think that was a big middle finger to one of his former clubs, that he seems to have those big giant chips on his shoulder. I don't know. That's what drives him and fuels him. So more play or fair play to him for that, because I have some of those as well. But I say with Spurs, this is probably going to be his most challenging project to date. And I'm curious if he's got the energy to stay focused, because he's already taken some shots at his team. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I find that particular relationship between him and Daniel Levy to be very interesting. And I'm curious to see how the players respond to him. Not just right now when you got the new manager bump still, but in 6 months, in a year, because that's where Mourinho, even though he's starting to get closer and closer and closer, starts to burn out the players pretty quickly.
Yeah, Antonio Conte had a plan for Inter Milan. Inter Milan couldn't afford that plan. Antonio Conte said goodbye. Tottenham wanted Conte. Conte said no, because this plan is not working for me. Then they came back after, of course, what happened with Nuno Espirito Santo. And then Conte, that's what, all right, you're giving me what I want. And that's exactly. So to your point, he's very good at his job when he controls everything that he wants to control. So that's why, no, he is not upset that he left Inter Milan. All right, let's move on here. By the way, Shakhtar and Sheriff, of course, was the other game. Remind me, Des Norris, what the score was in that one. I paid
1-1.
Was it? Was it 1-1?
Yes, 92nd minute goal for Sheriff by Boban Nikolov.
Oh, so good. Love it. Well done,
Shakhtar,
Shakhtar.
what are you doing? First time in their history they've been to the Champions League group stages and have not won one game.
Incredible. And Sheriff in the Europa League. So that's good for them. Group C, Borussia Dortmund. They're in the Europa League. They need the Europa League, just financially speaking. And they said goodbye to the Champions League with a 5-0 demolition of Turkish side Besiktas. Erling Haaland off the bench on the score sheet, of course, a brace. That's 23 Champions League goals in 19 matches. Erling Haaland, Jonathan Johnson. Is there anything more to say about him aside from the fact, will we see him in the black and yellow next season anyway?
Yeah, I mean, we were debating it with Derek on the show just yesterday. I'm really curious to see how it plays out, and I think Dortmund have a really good opportunity now in the Europa League to be able to make up for basically just not turning up in this Champions League group until it was too late. I was saying earlier, too little, too late from PSG. In terms of getting that top spot in Group A. Likewise for Dortmund here, performing this way, if they put in this kind of performance. Against a team like Ajax or a team like Sporting, they probably wouldn't have found themselves, out of contention to get into the knockout phase with a game to spare. So, as encouraging as it is, and they do still look pretty solid domestically as well. So it's not like all hope is lost for this season. But I think Haaland coming back will have such a transformative effect for them. You can see even when he comes off the bench, he still hasn't lost that touch. He's still getting goals, whether it's in the Bundesliga or the Champions League. And I just think that realistically, with all due respect to Dortmund, Europa League is more their level for their consistency at this moment in time. And I'd place them among the favorites, to be honest, to go and win that title.
Yeah, I agree with JJ. I think the Borussia Dortmund, especially with a healthy Erling Haaland, who is going to be motivated to be like, all right, this is the new competition I'm in. I'm just going to start banging in goals. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
I'm going to set records in this competition too. Is going to be motivated to make that happen. And if you do win the Europa League, you guarantee your spot in the Champions League, though they should finish top 4. So I'm not too worried about it from a Bundesliga perspective. That said, I do think if Haaland had been healthy throughout the group stages, they probably would be in second and Sporting would have dropped off into third. So there's something to take into consideration there. This Dortmund team, though, I just want to speak about Jude Bellingham. I know he's in trouble for running his mouth after the Bayern Munich game, which he should have, by the way. The refereeing was criminal. But I will say that I love the little things that he does where he picks up the ball in the half turn, he drives it the back line, sets up the first goal for Daniel Malen, and that really kind of unlocked the rest of the game. There was a red card for Besiktas not too long after that. They're starting to lose their cool, and then things weren't going their way. Besiktas is bad, by the way, just to throw that out there. But it still takes something to beat a bad team who kind of holding on for just organization and hope. You still have to go out there and prove that you're better. And I thought Dortmund were excellent in every facet. And I'm curious to see how they continue to play. Kind of because I actually thought they were pretty good for good stretches against Bayern Munich as well, where the game was in the balance and we could argue they deserved more than what they got. So I like this Dortmund team. And to JJ's point, I think they could make a real deep run into the Europa League, which would be fun to see. It'd be good for that competition to have an Erling Haaland kind of light it up and really bring more attention to that competition.
Yeah, that's until Sevilla wins it, but we'll
because they're hosting it. That's why.
Exactly.
The final is.
But thank you for the comments, everybody. Yes, we know, obviously, due to the goal differential and other things, it could have gone Borussia Dortmund's way, but it is not. And Sporting, by the way, massive credit there, of course. By the way, speaking of that game against Ajax, just ridiculous. 20 goals scored in the group stages. They've won all 6 games. I believe they make a little history because them alongside, who's the other team that won every single game? It's the only time it's happened in the tournament, by the way, where 2 teams end this on a perfect score. Liverpool, I believe, right? Liverpool's the other one. Yeah, Liverpool and Ajax. The only time the tournament has had 2 perfect in the group stages. But Sebastian Haller, I mean, Ajax are just in form. But my thing is this, okay, Jimmy, my thing is this. I mean, okay, Haller, 10 goals, 6 group games. I want to see what Ajax does against a better opponent. What do you make of them when they get into the knockout stages?
They're a team that I wouldn't want to face. I mean, I think they've only given up 1 goal at home all season. Something crazy. I mean, they're very, very good at home. They have their identity. And with the addition of Sebastian Haller, it really gives them a proper number 9 that an Antony can run off of, that a Dusan Tadic can run off.
It helps when you register him for continental competition.
That's true. That's 100% true. Did they get a group that was pretty manageable? 100%, and really matched up well against everybody in the group. Besiktas doesn't even count. That's an automatic 2 wins. But Sporting Club de Portugal, they came in on a 12-game unbeaten streak and came off beating Benfica 3-1. I mean, that's a good team, Sporting, and they know how to score goals. And Ajax was like, yeah, all right. I mean, yeah, I guess they gave up 2 today, but there's something about this Ajax team that I really like. And now that Onana's back in goal, I think that makes them a little bit more steady between the sticks, and they're not relying on the 3rd string goalkeeper, which is how, made a mistake, I guess, against Roma last year in the Europa League that kind of unraveled Ajax in a way. They should never have lost to Roma last year. I would not want to face this Ajax team over 2 legs is probably the shortest way to say it. And you're going to be pretty bummed if you do. That said, we could get Ajax versus Inter Milan, which feels kind of unfair to both of those clubs, but that's part of what makes the Champions League so fun in the knockout rounds.
I think what I really like about this Ajax side is that it feels like something we're only going to see for a very limited period of time. You've got some guys who are at the absolute peak of their game, the peak of their maturity, and the only way really now is going to be down afterwards in their career for them. It feels like it's going to be this season to give it absolutely everything, take Ajax as far as they can in Europe, dominate domestically. But after that, it might not be at the same level again once more. And, I think it's very rare as well for someone like Haller to be having the season that he's having, where he's scored in every group game so far. He'll be sort of expecting himself to keep that record up going into the knockout phase as well. Like Jimmy said, nobody's going to want to go up against this Ajax side, but they now have to maintain this level of performance coming into the new year. And that's also going to be a challenge when they go back to, just basically being the domestic big boys.
Yeah, no, it's true. The only thing I think that I would counter with is the fact that if there's any club out there that can really just keep on going consistent-wise, just because of their philosophy, which is taught literally if you're 9 years old or if you're Tadic, it's Ajax. But to your point, they're in a very good moment right now, and they better take full advantage of it. So it'd be interesting to see who they get in the round of 16. So take nothing away from that. And that's it, by the way, from Tuesday's recap. Amazing. We got some good games tomorrow, but anything final thoughts here, Jimmy Conrad? We can even discuss tomorrow a little bit if you wanted to. I know you weren't part of our Champions League preview, so your amazing prediction of Barcelona maybe not making the knockout stages might come true, my friend. Anything else to discuss?
It's coming true. Come on, you expect Barcelona to go to Germany, and the German clubs have an advantage because they have a 2-week rest coming, so they can still
I'm a romantic, Jimmy. I'm a romantic. I'd like to
Lewandowski's at home right now, and he's watching all these other people set records. Haaland scores 2, Messi scores 2, Mbappe scores 2, Sebastian Aller's scoring every game he ever plays in. Lewandowski's like, yeah, I'm the guy. I'm the king of this, okay? And I'm going to step up. I'm going to play. And I think that Barcelona, I just don't know how Barcelona are going to keep Bayern off of the score sheet. That's first and foremost. And then who's going to score the goals for them? Ousmane Dembele is going to be really important to Barcelona. But yes, that's going to be a great game. And obviously, I think that Benfica will sneak in and get that second spot. And Barcelona will be going to the Europa League. And the Europa League is going to be popping off. They got Borussia Dortmund there already. They're going to be fine company. And Sheriff, let's be honest. Sheriff's who we all want to see anyway.
Yeah, they'll be knocked out.
You know what? Jimmy's saying I told you so is never a good thing. But if he's saying I told you so after the Barca game, I'm not going to complain.
He's absolutely loving it, by the way, because he's hitting all his games. By the way, Ian Pojo today was absolutely loving Jimmy Conrad. What did you do, happens. By the way, Jimmy? Yeah, seriously. No, but fair play, my friend. You're getting a lot correct right now. Are you getting a bonus? Is that what's going on?
No, I have not seen anything. I don't know what these bonuses you're talking about, but if you get some, why don't you share them with me?
Viacom CBS, get to it. Seriously, my God. JJ, did you have any final thoughts aside from making sure that we don't gloat too much with Jimmy?
No, not at all. I mean, I think we said a lot in the preview just yesterday, but no, looking forward to seeing how the rest of the games pan out, and obviously to the draw next week as well.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, Atalanta Villarreal is going to be a game to watch. That's the good one right there, as Manchester United, of course, lead Group F. But that is it, everybody. Thank you so much for being part of the family. Jimmy, thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan Johnson.
Pleasure as always.
Thank you, everybody. That brings today's coverage to a close, but we'll be here again tomorrow to recap the end of match day 6 and the end of the Champions League group stages. And tomorrow, of course, as we mentioned, Barcelona's all or nothing to hit their trip to Munich, a 4-way fight in Group G, and a too tough to call clash between, as I mentioned, Atalanta and Unai Emery's Villarreal. Make sure that you join us live on YouTube and be part of the conversation. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Follow Que Golazo Pod. Follow us on Twitter, Que Golazo Pod, and of course, leave a rating and review. It's been a very long day. So if I stumbled at a few words, well, screw you. I'm tired. All right. So I will see you, everybody, tomorrow. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night, and we will see you next time. Thank you.